Listen. So I got the chance to attend the Fantasia Film Festival, which is located up in Montreal, Canada, from the comfort of my own couch, because unlike a lot of the upcoming festivals, they've actually been dope enough to keep a lot of their stuff still as a part of their virtual lineup. This year they premiered James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. They had a movie about a demon grandma who's possessed by her own grandkids to do whatever they say. There was a movie about a sentient car that causes more chaos than Bumblebee. And even the Searching producers have a new Screen Life movie called #Blue Whale about the deathly real-life challenges that were happening online. And they also had Mother Schmuckers, which, as I've said before, watch at your own risk. But here I want to wrap up a couple of the movies that stood out to me and see if any of these recommendations end up being maybe a future must-watch for you. So let me explain.
こっちこっちモニターの方よ俺なんだけどおう俺は未来の俺なんだって2分後の俺なんだって
Now, starting off with my list of rented, there's the time-looping coffee shop movie called Beyond the Two Infinite Minutes that was personally my most anticipated movie of the fest. Pretty much, there's a dude who realizes that he can speak to his future self on a computer that's 2 minutes ahead, which ends up spiraling into this entire loop-de-loop of chaos. And previously, the team had shot a similar short film called Howling, so they kind of had the whole practice down to shoot this thing in 7 days. They had a stopwatch on set to get everything filmed exactly to the dot. The whole thing is shot to look like one continuous take, and personally, all of this is right up my alley, but I thought it was pretty decent. Personally, it does get a little repetitive. And the character decisions are super goofy at times, to the point that, again, I didn't fully love it, but I still think it showcases some really commendable filmmaking, which they show off in the credits. Another rented for me was the slickly shot satire Tiong Bahru Social Club that has this storybook feel to it as you follow this young guy looking to move out of his mama's house into this social club that's pushing a happiness movement. It's pretty much that spot from Sorry to Bother You that's looking to set up your entire career, your friends, your sleep schedule. The whole place is filled with happiness agents that make you sign a happiness contract as you put on a happiness ring to measure your happiness percentage. It's on the idea that nobody wants to think for themselves and they want everything just done through an app. It's nothing too profound that I don't think you haven't seen in other satirical sci-fis, but to me it was quirky enough that I had a decent enough time with it. I really like the elderly character that Abi has to take care of because she's like the only one who gets what's going on. And with the director being an engineer himself, he was really inspired by how the public housing in Singapore just sets up everybody all together and how it seems that algorithms are controlling our entire lives, which, considering my Apple Watch wants to tell me when to breathe, I think we're already there.
Are you happy?
Happiness level 43%.
There were also several Sundance selects that played here that I covered over on the Intercut podcast, but I haven't had the chance to mention them here, so I figured I'd give them a little bit of a shout out because while they may have been mixed bags, I think there's some elements in there that people will really dig. The first would be the thriller Coming Home in the Dark, where a family out in the wild gets confronted by these two strangers who start to just completely torment them. It's one of those that goes from 0 to 100 really quick. It's one of those where the characters, at least on screen, are trying to get out of the situation, while you have these menacing drifters played by Daniel Gillies, who I think completely killed it. The second half isn't as strong as the first, but overall I still think it's worth the watch. Just be warned, it does get dark.
I'm a magician. I make things disappear.
Another flick would be Strawberry Mansions, which takes place in a world where the government records your dreams and taxes them, which is a plot that's right up my alley, because I really do feel it's only a matter of time that we're gonna get to a point where we just hum a song in our sleep and get hit with a... That said, while it does touch on how much advertisements have bombarded our daily lives, it's not going to be one that's going to click with everyone. It's really more of a love story as well, because you're following a tax auditor who ends up falling in love with the woman that he's auditing amidst like dreams of rat sailors and chicken shakes. It's definitely ambitious for the budget that they had, and I really do mean this in the nicest way possible because I did like the movie, but it's so like it's got this subconscious feel that probably hits best if you're watching it right as you're falling asleep, which even the directors joked about.
As I've gotten older, I'm like, you know what? It's not the worst thing to fall asleep. Like, you know, a good movie, I think, is gonna maybe put you in some kind of dream state anyway. You know, like, so I'm all for that. You know, fall asleep to Strawberry Mansion.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Prisoners of the Ghostland is Nick Cage's newest adventure with Sion Sono, who claims that this is his tamest film since he's trying to, get into the American market and make more movies over here, but it's not in his top half. However, if you liked Mandy or Color Out of Space, it's coming from the same production company, and I think it delivers on the same craziness.
Each arm is equipped with an explosive device. Your trousers are also equipped with explosives.
Really?
Pretty much, Cage plays a criminal/hero who gets his nuts locked up until he finds and returns the mayor's daughter. It's completely bonkers, the sets are super massive, and even though it does get super goofy, there is plenty of background metaphors dealing with the atomic bombings that happen in Japan, with even having actual survivors being a part of the cast.
I'm not a prisoner!
Cryptozoo is Dash Shaw's animated feature about these mythological creatures known as cryptids that the military is looking to capture in order to use their powers to control the culture. I know a lot of people were mixed with this one at Sundance, but I kind of liked it. It was inspired by The Centaurs, which was an unfinished short film by Winsor McKay, and these two just worked on the style for over 5 years, even recording the actors performing their own scenes. And again, I know that it's going to come off dry for a lot of people because as detailed as the world is, which is what I absolutely love, I can admit that the characters and even the creatures aren't as fleshed out as they could have been to really get invested into it all. But I personally like what they represented. Like, you could see them as symbols of imagination or, like kind of put specific groups or demographics and the struggles that they face. But overall, it was just how the inspiration for this story came from Disney and how that man had plans for a futuristic city that was meant to preserve and do good and really just ended up becoming an amusement park.
Out there, people think of us as imaginary beasts. Maybe one day we can feel safe anywhere in the world, not just in a protected zoo.
Moving on to my junior prices, there was a Satoshi Kondok that isn't going to, tell the superfans anything new. It's nothing that's too much of a masterpiece like the man's work, but I thought it was an overall solid tribute to a man that deserves all the respect that's put on his name. At the young age of 46, this man created only 4 features that have inspired the likes of Nolan and beyond, and in my opinion are all must-watches. If you're curious, Breadsword has a pretty good series on his works that I would highly recommend. But for this one, you can tell that they weren't really trying to get as deep as they could have, because the main focus is to really just highlight his legacy, which again, he deserves as much mainstream hype as he can possibly get, but really it's just more of a gushing reel than a creative breakdown. They've got the Spider-Verse animators in here praising him. A lot of his animation peers are here talking about the influences, and even Aronofsky appears in the doc, claiming he's got a text stating he didn't steal the shots he stole.
It was very clear he was this kind of one-man machine.
Hellbender is a true family film that's directed, edited, shot, composed, designed, produced, and acted by the mom, dad, and their 2 kids. Pretty much they'll take turns passing the camera around whenever one of them's not on screen, and they shoot everyone's take on a scene the day of, and then in post decide who had the better idea. And it gets very meta considering that the family themselves have their own band and have always worked together, but now their daughter in real life is at an age where she's ready to go out on their own. And so the movie is about a mother-daughter band and where the daughter is looking to branch out on her own. It all takes place up in these isolated mountains where the mom's kept the daughter secluded because of the fact that they're both hellbenders, which slowly gets explained. But it really revolves around the idea of nature versus nurture, the idea of in order to grow up, sometimes you kind of need to leave parts behind unless it gets viciously flipped. This one ended up winning several awards at Fantasia and I believe should also be on Shudder soon.
We wanted to build off of our band, so we were like, let's make a feature film with, Hellbender as the base of it.
King Knight comes from the director of Tone Deaf and Excision, which is so disgusting I still haven't rinsed those scenes out of my mind, but I'd say this is one of his best. Matthew Gray Gubler goes from a criminal mind to a devilish one as he leads his own little coven in California until a secret from his past comes out, causing them all to turn on him. I thought it was a pretty good comedy about people's personal history, like where you find yourself from where you were in the past to where you are as an adult. Are you a leader, an outsider? Is it all a persona? How does it affect all the people around you? It's got a pretty good cast. It stars Andy Milonakis as one of the cult members. Director Aaron Moorhead, who I really like the duo, he even comes in to do a couple of shots in the movie. Aubrey Plaza voices a Pinecone, and I'd say it's one that if you like the story and once you get a trailer, if it interests you, definitely put it on your radar, because for me, I'm all in for a King Knight 2 starring Juliette Binoche.
You expect me to believe that Juliette Binoche has poo in her butt? You're out of your goddamn mind.
Wrapping up my junior prices would be the South African thriller Glasshouse, which follows a group of sisters confined to their glass house after a toxin known as the shred causes people's memories to be erased. And then a stranger comes in and just shakes up everything. I thought it was a solid thriller drenched in a lot of drama that takes its influences from South African history and that idea of burying trauma and how long someone can pretend that things are okay before the past comes back to haunt them.
In a world of madness, we have found order.
In terms of shorts, I wanted to gather a quick little list of the ones that stood out to us. There's Aria, which has a couple installing a smart home security system that obviously is looking out for more than they realize. But what's cool about this one is if you go to the website for the short film, they actually have a shop to buy the movie's cameras and equipment that ends up leading you to their servers where they're spying on their characters. Personally, I thought that was pretty cool marketing, and I think it's something that people should definitely check out. Monsieur Kashmir was a fun little comedy about a dude who goes into a bank asking for a loan to fund his El Dorado trip, when in reality, he's on another expedition. Habitat is a short sci-fi about a dude hoping to win his dream vacation by clicking the same button on his computer over and over and over again. Night Bus is an animated horror thriller that was inspired by the director's own travels, where he thought up of a night bus that gets bombarded by vengeful monkeys. La Oscuridad was the main image for the short section that I kept seeing pop up, and it comes from Jorge Sistos Moreno, who tracks the character of Marina, who emerges from a lake and goes back to the school to face the principal who caused her death. I really like this one because not only did it play a part of the small gauge trauma section, but it looks back at a lot of cases in Mexico that usually get left in the dark, hence the title. And I really like the director's approach of looking at the testimonials that he encountered and edited when he was working at a news outlet, and not setting out to just make a piece of fiction, but to use those stories to obtain and highlight justice. He was able to play this one at Cannes. I know he's picked up several awards for it, and supposedly he's getting his next short produced by Spike Lee. Finally, there's You're Dead Helen, which is a comedy about a guy who keeps seeing his girlfriend Helen everywhere, only to, you can see in the title. I thought it was a good little short about mourning, but more so how we as humans handle separation.
Bah voilà, je sais pas Hélène si tu voulais rajouter quelque chose.
To wrap up the list, I have to re-mention Woodlands, which I brought up before in my festival stuff. This one continues to get my full must-watch approval because to me it's a masterpiece of a documentary that explores the horror genre to its depths, and I hear that there's a bunch of extra footage coming out with the Blu-ray release, so continue to have this one on your radar. On top of that, I wanted to mention my top 3 from last year, one that's already out and 2 that have yet to come out, I believe, in most places, but we had to cover these on the live streams as well as the Inchica podcast, but I wanted to give them a mention here because they also get my highest must-watch rating. There's Feels Good Man, which tells the story of artist Matt Fury, who created the comic character of Pepe, who, let's just say, went viral. It's a fascinating look at him as a creative and what he went through, but also how art gets interpreted, twisted, or even redeemed. There was a new doc about memes that also played this year, but I would say just go back and find this one, rewatch it if you have to, because I think this one truly understands the power of images, how fastly they spread, and the effect that they have on culture. Patrick would be another one to have on your radar, which is a little mystery drama from Belgium that takes place in a nudist community and follows the leader's son, Patrick, who's just really concerned about his hammer, which goes missing. I like how it takes its time to build up the tension, how even though there's like several other things going on in the plot, Patrick really just cares about finding his hammer, and there's a lot of different things that it can represent to you as a viewer, all while there also being a community conspiracy happening in the sidelines. For me, I highly recommend it. I know this one picked up a couple of awards, and I hope that it gets a full release soon as well. Finally, there's Special Actors, which comes from director Shinichiro Ueda, who did One Cut of the Dead, which is one of my favorite found footage movies, and even made a sequel to that one called Remote that was all shot completely online. You can find it on YouTube. But as for this one, I absolutely loved it. It follows a similar style to his previous ones, where a guy named Kazuto struggles with his dream of becoming an actor because he has a condition where he faints under pressure consistently, but that ends up becoming useful when he reunites with his estranged brother, who just so happens to work for an agency that specializes in hiring actors for real-life scenarios, and the next job just so happens to involve infiltrating a cult. It's personally one of my favorite ones from last year. It's one of those movies that I'm looking forward to rewatching once it gets a full release, but I think it's one that people should definitely have on their radar, and even mostly just this director on the radar. That said, thank y'all for watching this video, and I'm curious to know your thoughts. If you were able to attend Fantasia or other film festivals that are on the horizon, let me know what you're looking forward to watching, if you will be attending some of the ones that are going to be in person, or really just anything that's upcoming in the fall list that you're looking forward to. Personally, there was the stop motion and puppet features, these 3 right here, that I still have on my watch list that I'm looking forward to. I heard a couple good things about them, and I'm also curious about this thriller called What Josiah Saw. I know that a lot of Fantasia films end up being on Shudder, so hopefully I'll end up seeing them there, maybe get a link or something like that. But if there's any recommendations from Fantasia that you have for me that I missed, let me know down below in the comment section. And until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and keep watching movies.